If we don't take a second and actually critically evaluate what steps we took or did not take and see what options are available to us, you're going to make the same mistake again. Or even worse, you may never get the opportunity to make the mistake again. Real talk, there's no overnight success. Very rarely are you having a very lucid happenstance kind of moment. That just is not how life works. And I have to tell people, particularly folks who work in the DEI space, companies are here to make money. I know you want them to like you. I know you want them to value Black folks. I know you want them to see you a certain way. Above and beyond any of that, if it does not make money, it is not a priority. If you want to be valuable, people need to see how you impact their money.
And I think that's a part of what social media has done, because we're more concerned about other people's lives than sometimes our own, because it's a way for us to detach from our reality.
Yep. You can't save your way out of poverty.
If the bank is going to take your money invested in real estate, how come we not doing that?
We got to focus on ownership. We have to own shit.
I love investing in real estate. It's the one tangible asset class that has stood the test of time.
Peace, family. What is going on? Will Roundtree here for another episode of the Full-Time CEO podcast, where we interview dope individuals, businessmen, businesswomen, entrepreneurs, and just dope people from the culture and the community. Look, today we got a guest that I'm truly excited to have on. Definitely a legend. Y'all already know I only bring legends on. Legends, future legends, soon to be legends, and a legend in their own right. And I would be remiss if I couldn't bring on my good friend who has been doing some incredible work across the country. Let me say globally. Look, it's one thing to say you putting on for your community. It's another thing to say you doing something for the block and for the hood. But to be doing some global work, look, if I was to go off her entire resume, we would have to have a 3-part series and make this into a documentary. Look, I'm sitting here with world-renowned Amber Cabral. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I feel like I have never been called such a legend so many times. I feel like I need that recording so I can just play it before I come on stage next time.
Hey, it'll be a part of your affirmations. Just listen to it before every...
Listen, receive, shower me. Okay, I'm here for it.
Definitely. So I always like people to give an opportunity to share what it is that they want people to know about them. So could you just give people the Cliff Notes version of who this superhuman is that we're speaking with today?
For sure. My name is Amber Cabral. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I am a TED talker. I'm a coach.
Two-time author.
Two-time author. Yeah, working on book number 3 and 4. Okay. So, we're on book 3 and 4 now.
Put some respect on the number of books.
For sure. Definitely been published. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a writer, a speaker, a teacher. I'm an award-winning facilitator. I work with some of the world's most well-known brands on helping their leaders be better communicators and more effective at making sure that we have healthy workplace cultures. That's basically what I do with my life. So I get to work, to your point, globally. And I also get to work locally to make sure that, when we are thinking about what it feels like to communicate across differences, we have some tools and skills to do that. And this is not just about being pacifying, but making sure that we're impactful.
Okay. Well, we're going to come back to what you just said about that, because I think one of the things, especially in our community, we've been convinced that in order to kind of be professional, you got to be passive.
It's true.
And I want to come back to that. But recently you were on the Karen Hunter show.
Yes.
Actually, I love, matter of fact, Karen, I've been reaching out to you since 2018. Okay. Your DMs is full of my messages. I need somebody. So we go figure that out later. But no, definitely. I'm sure, you were able to get your message across. And I know you talked a lot about, just some of the things that's going on economically with different brands and different. Yep. Did you want to just touch on that? Because I know there's a lot going on right now and people are scared. They don't know what to do. People don't even know what to say these days nowadays, whether it's online, on television, on radio. So like, how are you combating that, especially being on this run of working with people and teaching them how to communicate properly?
Oh, this is such a good question. So, I do a lot on Karen because, Karen has a lot of opinions and things to cover. So I'm
Definitely.
usually on her show about once a month. Luckily, this month I was on there 2 times back to back. So I was on this week and last week,
Right.
which means there were lots of Amber's opinions that were being shared. And we did talk a lot about what you're saying, which is like, how do we navigate this moment where it's like, what do I say? What can I say? What's safe? Should I just be quiet? What should I be doing? Right. And, I think the energy of what Karen has been communicating and what I definitely align with is like, this is your prepare moment. Like we're watching a lot of change. We're watching, folks are losing their jobs for things that seem really silly. We're seeing a lot of shifts. And so I think, if I were to make a synopsis of the conversation that I had on Karen Hunter over the last 2 weeks, it was be very diligent about your dollars. Be very diligent about your time. Prepare yourself for potential changes you didn't see coming. I am in the midst and throes of many changes right now. And thankfully, I did some smart things with some dollars such that I have been able to navigate those. And so, let's make sure that we do that. But also, prepare to think about what the right way is for you to be impactful with your money. So what might be the next strategy in terms of who or what we withhold our dollars and our time from? And, can we do that in a way that is, strategic and impactful? We've seen some of the benefits, in terms of what's gone on with some of these other large organizations. But, I'm not sure that what we've done is had a coordinated and intentional approach. And so we covered a little bit of like what that could potentially look like, as we're navigating 2025 and feeling, a little bit out of control.
Okay. So let me play devil's advocate a little bit here, Amber.
Sure.
Okay. Now, coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people touched money that was life-changing.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs probably made more money, or not probably, they made more money
Definitely
than they've ever touched in their life. There were a lot of government assisted programs out there that gave people the opportunity where they didn't have to pay their bills. Yep. People had access to different programs from, unemployment to like, basically, if you were breathing, you probably got access to more money than you were used to touching. Now, would it be safe to say that even though we're in this era right now where it's like you sneeze too hard, something can go wrong economically.
Right.
But would it also be safe to say that a lot of people didn't plan properly as they were getting that money, because that was one of the things that, like when you start making a lot of money, but you aren't personally and financially matured, you assume it's going to keep coming as freely as it does, and nothing works that way. So how do you talk to those individuals who's like, look, some of this is possibly on you because you didn't plan properly, you didn't put the right infrastructure around you, and we thought it would keep coming. How do you talk to people in that lane?
Ooh, okay. Well, thankfully, this is probably more your lane than mine, so I don't have to talk to a lot of people in that lane. But just
want Amber's opinion. I think
listen, I am happy to opine. So I am of the perspective that every moment that you have in your life is an opportunity for you to see it as a lesson. So, if you were a person who happened to have a big come up, shortly after the pandemic and, did not put money away, did not plan well, did not figure out how to put, yourself in a position where, you could coast if something happened, that's a lesson. Let's look at our current moment. Let's look at our present income. Let's look at our available time resources, and let's figure out what the strategy is going forward. We don't have to lament what we didn't do. We can acknowledge, I had it. Here's what I would have done differently now that I know what I know. And we can plan going forward. Where you lose the opportunity to have any future success is by not making note of the lesson. And so I'm a big fan of, let's reflect. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Am I proud of this moment? Maybe not, but at the end of the day, if we don't take a second and actually critically evaluate what steps we took or did not take and see what options are available to us, you're going to make the same mistake again. Or even worse, you may never get the opportunity to make the mistake again.
And I think that's the part that's hard for people to fathom, and that's where people are at now. They're like, oh, wow, I missed it. I missed my opportunity.
Yeah.
I missed the leverage to capitalize on particular opportunities. And so let's segment from that and springboard to some of the opportunities from a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the retail space. And I know you've done a lot of work, frontline, behind the scenes. You've worked with some of the global companies in that regard. And so when it comes for someone who is looking to grow as a retailer, or someone who has products and looking to partner with major brands from a product placement standpoint. And I've seen, I've watched the Shark Tanks and all, and they make it seem easy.
It's not. It's not.
It's like,
first of all, it's not.
Yourself and talk to 1,000 people, and they don't tell you need to have a lot of money.
Yeah, you need to have a lot of money, and you do still need those connections. And in addition to that, the thing about retail in general is, first of all, I just want to say this about life. Like and I know people say this and it's cliche or whatever, but like real talk, there's no overnight success. There really isn't. All success is planned. Everything you see before your eyeballs has been intentionally curated and deliberately hand packaged for you to receive. Like very rarely are you having, a very, lucid happenstance kind of moment. That just is not how life works. And so whatever version of, story or background or, oh my gosh, we woke up one day and discovered that we could make car seats out of, paper clips. That's not real, And so we have to first know that like anything that is happening from a success standpoint is intentionally curated. And so if you want success, you have to be intentional about it. The trick with retail, I just want to say, I love retail. It is such a complicated thing for me because I worked in retail so long and I understand it. And I have a lot of clients that are in retail. And so it is a space that I truly enjoy, but it is also a very complicated space because retail gets a lot of us in trouble. Okay. But
retail
here's the thing,
or just retail?
Man, retail therapy gets us in trouble. Retail, in terms of us not being smart shoppers, gets us in trouble.
So like there's the pandemic money went. Retail therapy for some of us.
That's what I'm saying. The capitalism, you know what I'm saying, of it all, right?
Right.
So yeah, retail can be it's a little bit of a slippery slope. Plus, we just we are consumers, right? So in some ways, we are consuming almost to our detriment when you think about some of the planetary impacts of what we do. So like I recognize the downsides as well. But if you have a product and you think your product is outstanding, your product is outstanding, there are several things that you have to do to be appealing to end up in a retailer's lap. They need to know they can make money off you.
It's really that simple.
That's really what it is. I need to know. We like to make it feel like, oh, they want to support Black business. They want to make sure that women get access. Oh, you women own this. Cool. Those are nice feathers to have in the cap. Can they make money off you? So for them to make money off you, you have to have a product that's quality. You have to know how to package said product. It needs to have a name that is appealing to a broader audience than we can't be too narrow, right? We like to sometimes name things, particularly Black folks, that are very connected to our community and identity. Okay. We gotta be careful about that.
Black hood brushes. And I tell my entrepreneurs, it's good that we want to pitch to our audience, but if you want to grow and have a global brand, that's global like you, of course, you have to appeal to the masses.
Correct.
Correct. Trevor
broader is better.
In Wyoming isn't buying the hood bristles.
Not at all. Not remotely. So does not see the hood bristles.
He doesn't even see the hood bristles. And so how do you talk to people for us to think broader? Because I think we try to sell cool too much. And I talked about that recently.
We do try to sell cool. We also like to, when we get a little bit of an opportunity, we want people to really understand that we are Black people doing it. And I understand that.
Important, though. Is that important?
I think it's important, but I think there's a way to do that, right? I think that you can it can be clear that you are a Black founder. It can be clear that your product was created with Black people in mind. But when we start to tip into the category where we feel like it's just for us, is where you can run a bit of a risk. It's just not going to be appealing to a brand. Walmart is 2.2 million people in terms of employees, biggest company in the history of the world. They have stores around the globe. Can I put this around the globe? If you set this in front of a small Asian woman, is there someone, if not her, that's going to come to mind for her where she'll say, oh, somebody I know could use that? And if the answer is no, it is harder for you to be appealing to a retailer. I'm going to tell you a story. When I used to work at Walmart, this is a story I got from working there. And I remember them talking about, there was a woman that was, I can't remember which one of these little Midwest states it was, but she made piping for the pet. Like if you have a hamster or something that makes the water drip down. Okay. Right. She made the tubing for that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we did not have a person in this area that made this tubing. And so someone ends up coming across her, finds out that she makes this tubing. We get in touch with her. And the biggest problem was, she can't make enough. So that's the other thing you got to be able to do. Can you make enough? Can you make it quickly?
It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money, ladies and gentlemen. It takes a lot of money.
So it's that. Now you can look up in the sense that this person, we saw the value and said, okay, well, look, this is how much we think we can make. This is how much we think she would make. And so we sent her through an accelerator program, helped her be able to scale up in such a way where she could make the tubing that we needed, made it and put it in the stores, right? Changed her life, changed our life, had an impact. That's not luck though. You had a product that had reach. You had a product that people needed. It was in an area that we didn't have another solution. So like when you're thinking about being appealing to a retailer, we've got to think broad. We've got to think bigger than just ourselves. We've got to think about who it is. And we've got to have a good understanding and working knowledge of our market. And that doesn't mean you have to move into a market where there are not a lot of people. Sometimes that's not the best approach either, right? There's 15 million beauty brands, right? But we all see they're mostly thriving.
Right.
It's 400 different brands of bread. You go walk through the bread aisle. It's like, which of these, you know what I'm saying? So like you can be one of a group of many, but why am I choosing you? What about you is different? What value are you adding? And can you articulate that in such a way that a retailer is willing to say, okay, I need 700 units of that for each of these stores in this region.
Right.
And can you produce that?
Right. And you hit all of those things. And this is what I tell people, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs myself who try to sell their passion. I say it still has to be, people still have to make money off of it. And I get sometimes, especially a lot of us as minorities, we're like, well, I don't want people making money off of me. That's not how this works.
That's the goal. That is the goal.
If somebody can make money off of me, I'm going to make money. And so
you have to see it as you're valuable enough for people to make money off of you. I would like you to make money off of me. Please make money off of me. Because if you're making money off of me,
somebody come get
I'm
me
making money
now and make money off of me. Okay.
Right. Please. Exactly. So yes, you want that. That's actually what you do want.
No, 100%. So speaking on making money off of people, I want to touch on a little bit because I know, you get a lot of people who reach out to you to talk about a lot of the things in the DEI space and thing that happened with Target and a lot of the Black, creators who were inside Target or just across the globe that have been impacted and affected, and whether it's from a tariff standpoint, like how do one navigate in that space? Is that something that they can combat, or are they limiting themselves and saying, okay, Target may not want us, but there's still a global presence or a global reach that we can leverage, whether it's through social media, whether it's through brand sponsorship, because regardless, you still have to go and spend money for people to find you. Correct. And so do you think that sometimes we just find one thing and just hope that pops off?
I think that, yes, I think you're right. I'm also probably in the minority on the opinions about Target. I have a good working knowledge of retail. And if I had designed an approach to boycott anyone, I'm not sure that Target would have been my choice. I also will say, this part, I don't think that a short-term quick strategy is going to have long-term impact. I think there needs to be some intentionality and thoughtfulness that I have not seen. If the so-called boycott was supposed to have meaningful impact in terms of how retailers will view people of color, Black folks, brown folks, queer folks, etc. I'm not sure that I've seen that. I think if you want to make an impact, you need a strategy. And I've yet to see a meaningful strategy. I've seen a lot of hoopla. I've seen a lot of conversation, but I have not necessarily seen a strategy that I think is super impactful. Now I hear people, Target is losing money. I'm not denying any of that. I'm just saying to what end? Because who else has anybody decided to change they approach because of what happened to Target? Because I would venture to say the answer is no. Target ain't even really made a big change because of what happened to Target. So
they have not.
So this is something I used to say often. Like, I have been teaching for years. I'm an outstanding facilitator. It's one of my favorite things to do in my life. And I have to tell people, particularly folks who work in the DEI space, companies are here to make money.
That's it.
Companies are here to make money. I know you want them to like you. I know you want them to value Black folks. I know you want them to see you a certain way. Above and beyond any of that, if it does not make money, it is not a priority. So if you want to be valuable, people need to see how you impact their money. So if you would like an organization to care about Black folks need to be intentional with their money. I don't know that that's happened because we taken all the dollars that we were spending at Target and went and spent them somewhere else. So everybody else is like, well, I ain't really got to change. They not going to Target, but they still going over here and over here and over here. But if you would like a change in behavior universally, we've got to make some better decisions about who we choose to feel the pain, what the pain feels like, how long the pain goes on, what we're demanding in response to that. And it cannot be that you just care about me, because no organization, they don't care about themselves. They care about money. So if it is, I would like, a better communication. I would like healthier work environments. I would like more equitable hiring. I would like whatever that is. We need to be clear about what that is. And you need to have a strategy, because businesses are in business to make money. And by the way, you want them to make money because you work there. And so when they make money, they can pay you. So you also care if they make money. So we like to be delusional about that part, but it's real.
So that's a part of the strategy that I personally also think that wasn't thought out, because there's a lot of Black people who work in Target. So now they are impacted, and then the same families who are trying to support their family can't support their family, because I'm pretty sure that's possibly who's going to get laid off first. So it's like,
and if we look at the data,
it's a chain reaction.
Right. And if you look at the data, let's just play it out, right? Let's think about how retail works. If there's an impact on income, more than likely the first place, a Target makes, they have stores, right? So the first thing they're going to look at is where stores are performing. So stores tend to be representative of the communities that they're in. So that means that if you have a store in a Black community, the people who are working in the store are likely to be Black. And if the store is not performing because the Black people are not shopping at the store, suddenly now there is not a store. Suddenly now there's some job loss in this community that probably cannot afford to have job loss. Like, this is what I mean when I'm like, they're in business to make money. If you're going to take this approach, we got to be thoughtful about the long-term impacts of that, and also recognize where else we are in the pipeline, because very often the largest concentration of Black folks, poor folks, brown folks, queer folks are going to be in those lower jobs, the ones that are the most likely to be impacted.
Right.
So you're even hurting the people that you really think you're trying to help.
I agree. And so with that being said, and then we can move on from here, you said something about how we want inclusion more than anything. Do you think that sometimes we look at everything from the lens of utopia?
Yes.
And it's like, we're like, I want you to like me so bad, and America wasn't even built on that. It was built on capitalism. And I think that it's a very dangerous message that is put out, especially in our community, because we're always selling the feel good and not the economics of living. And so with your with your reach, because I know you work with a lot of companies from Wells Fargo to Google and all of the Amazon, and you're working with executives and you're training their mid-level management, and as your message, like how do you share that message, especially when it trickles down to people in our community who are trying to get to those type of corporate positions, because we even go in the door wanting management to like us. We want the CEO to, and that's not how you advance all the time. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, I think that I always recommend that people lead from a spirit of excellence. So like anything that you step into, I'm always of the mindset that if you cannot do it excellently, whatever your version of that is, you should not be there. A personal example, I have never, ever really participated on Twitter, even when it was Twitter, and whatever it is now, I definitely ain't participating. But when it was Twitter, I didn't do Twitter because I didn't have the bandwidth to be excellent at Twitter. Okay. I couldn't even try that. I got too many other things going on to be mass text messaging. So that's not the thing I decided to do. So what your intention is going in the door is what's going to be critically important around excellence. That mindset around excellence is super important. So I do make sure that I tell people that. The other thing that I think is really important, and I talk about this a lot I have a podcast called Humaning Well. One of the things that I saw, as the whole anti-DEI and all this wokeism, blah, 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 blah stuff kind of started to unfold, and I started to just take a critical look at the work that I have been doing, is that we don't take care of ourselves. We will run ourselves in the ground trying to make a point. We will, be all up in arms and not be doing good at work because we don't feel like we being respected. Like we have a business though. Right? We have a massive, massive imbalance of, but are you okay though? And so, I am not a fan of rugged individualism. I don't think that, we should be isolating ourselves and going and bootstrapping all that. Like, I'm not that person. But I do think that before you make the decision that you are looking for someone outside of you to give you something, what efforts have you made to give it to yourself? What efforts have you made to make sure your health is well? What have you done for your wealth? What have you done for your relationships? What have you done for your growth? Have we been intentional about that? Am I showing up as a fortified human being that I like? Do I like me? Because if I like me, then you're going to like me. Because why wouldn't you like me? People like people who like themselves.
1,000%.
And so I think we have to do a better job. This is not just a Black problem. This is really a poor problem. And so, I do want to just say that, like, when you come from a community that has struggled, when you have come up in struggle, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of time for your well-being. But if you are unwell, you are taking unwell everywhere you go, which means everybody that you engage with, you want them to like you because you're looking for well. But you get to give yourself well. So what does that look like? Can we be intentional about how we eat and how we sleep and how we spend our money? And so, like, a lot of us are not taking control of the things that we actually have in our wheelhouse so that we can enjoy ourselves, so that I can be a whole human going into this job, so that I am not showing up with a kind of desperation and then also trying to rally the troops and, get all of this, super activist energy moving through an organization, because I'm looking to fulfill something in me that honestly I owe myself first.
Right. So to that point, and I swear I almost want to say, are you in my brain? Because like you're echoing a lot of the things that I've been saying, because it's not a Black people problem, so it's a poor people. And I say poor is an acronym that stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. We pass over so many opportunities because we're not well. And that's why I love your title of your podcast, Humaning Well, because I say that there's a difference between people and humans. People want to stand on business. People brag about being petty. Like it's almost like we champion destruction. People do. People champion trauma. I remember one day I was in a barber shop when I was still living in Milwaukee about 20 years ago. And they were in there arguing about who got shot at the most. I've heard people brag about
like rappers or just broadly.
These are regular people.
Like regular people. Like they were arguing about among themselves who got shot at the most.
Civilians. bragging
absolutely
about
not.
who got shot at the most, who grew up the hoodest, who's been the poorest, who had the greatest hood poor story, who like we've almost like
Yeah.
we champion that story so
Yeah.
much that we don't know how to be human. And
Yes.
so humanizing well is, and I often tell people that even in my journey of being an entrepreneur for 20 years, Amber, I tell people I had an unfair advantage. And my unfair advantage is because I learned about personal development in 2003. I started becoming before I became. So
Right.
I started changing my mindset. I started changing the way I think. I started working on the version of Will who I am today. So I know how to deal with the thing that usually prevents people from prevailing on this journey, and it's people.
Yeah, it's you get in your own way. Yeah,
People is
is
the hardest part of
It's
this
true.
equation of success, of finding peace, and all of those things. And so when you talk
And the number one person is the hardest part. You are the hardest part. You are your biggest problem all the time.
It's the hardest. So how does one start the journey of humaning well? How do you find that level of peace when you are used to chaos?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And I do think everybody has to come to that on their own. I can be honest, it took me burning out. What made me decide, and here's the thing that's really wild about that. Like I have taught executive teams. Like I've been in the spaces. Like I've been around successful folks. But I had to have a series of things happen to me. I lost my father. I decided I was still going to push through 14 days later and try to give a TED talk. I ended up crying through said talk. I beat myself up about it. I had to have major surgery. I tried to force myself to go back to work. I couldn't go back to work. Like I had when I say kicked my behind, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and the other thing is like, when life is ready for you to be different, if you are a mover, life is at some point going to decide new drink and everything kind of gets snatched from you, right? Because I've also been in that space. So it's like, I've had to change my business. I cut all my hair off. I had a bad breakup. Like there's been thing after thing after thing. And it was probably that first chunk of stuff after my father passed away when I realized that I was trying to go anyway. Like what kind of lunacy is your father just died and you're going to go get up in front of a group of people and give a TED talk about allyship? What is that? What are we doing? And so it was through that journey, and I was fortunate enough to have the right people around me that made me stop and look at myself and say, I am out here fighting for equitable hiring, fighting for fair communication, trying to give people the tools to know how to apologize. And I know all of this stuff, but I don't have the energy to do it because I'm not taking care of myself. So I can give you all the tools so that you can be diverse, equitable, inclusive, and all of that. But if you're burnt the fuck out, okay, if you are not sleeping, if you don't get enough water, if you haven't been moving your body,
hold on, let me drink my water while you saying that.
Okay, right. Like if you aren't doing the stuff that is foundationally important to your brain working and your eyes doing what they're supposed to do and like all of that, if you're not doing that, then you don't have the energy to fight. You don't have the energy to fight any of the craziness that's going on right now. Oh, we fighting fascism. We fighting racism. We fighting the economic downturn. You don't have the energy. You don't have the energy. And so we have to start with us.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Yes, of course.
Isn't that what's sold to us? You got to be strong.
Of course it is.
Push through and this and that and that's dangerous.
I just want to know how many times you didn't buy something that was sold to you and been disappointed.
Man, today.
Okay. Correct. Okay. Like, so yeah, that's what's sold to you for sure. Because somebody is going to make money off of you, right? Because remember, that's the goal. So at the end of the day, yes, that's what's sold to you. But there's got to be a point where you look back and you say, if I really want to fight against, if I really want to push back against, if I really want to make an impact on, I got to have a muscle to do it. I have to have the money to do it. I have to have the mindset to do it. And I can't do that if I don't ever do anything for the container I'm operating in, for the brain that's making all of it happen. And so it took me literally going through it and having to sit myself down and be like, you can't do this, before I finally was like, oh, so the body actually does need you to eat like a few times a day. That does kind of matter. Okay, got it.
So then do you think
so that's where Humaning Well came from.
So not to cut you off, do you think that sometimes people don't experience enough life to be able to self-reflect on those things, or they're not around the people to help them to find that self-reflection? Because
correct. I think it's both of those. But it's also one more thing. It's I haven't had enough life. It is I'm not around the people that make me reflect. And it's also, and this is an unfortunate fact, particularly for folks who are living in impoverished circumstances, I don't have the time, right? Because when you're living in impoverished circumstances, your time is spent in survival. And even when survival is just, I'm standing on the block with my head on a swivel, you're still burning energy. You're still using something. You can't sit there and think about, man, maybe shouldn't have snapped at my grandmother like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have the capacity. And so some of it is also time. And so, one of the things that I encourage people to do, and I recommend this a lot for college students, because that's another category of people that I feel like also doesn't have a lot of time. You don't have time. You aren't doing the self-reflection because you're around all of this, other young people figuring themselves out, right? And hormones are everywhere. And then you also, are in a circumstance where like you just haven't really seen a lot of examples necessarily, depending on what you've come from. You're in the place now where you can potentially get example. The thing I always recommend that people do is ask somebody and you're going to encounter someone. It could be somebody you pass in a grocery store. Hey, I would love for you to make a book or podcast recommendation for me. Because if you can get something out of someone else's brain into your brain that gets you interested, suddenly you'll start to figure out how to make the time. And so if we can just do that, and it could be a small thing, it could be, I want you to read, people love The Alchemist. I think it's not great, but like, it could be that though. It could be your thing, so
somebody selling the book.
Somebody selling, right. So at the end, the book is still selling. So people like it, but I do think we have the small thing that you can do, even if you are in complicated, depleted, I don't have the self-awareness, I'm not surrounded by the right people, and I don't have the time, space, is at least notice when you encounter something different and ask a question like that. Hey, can you, I would love to know like a book you would recommend, for someone who's trying to figure out how to get to where you are. I would love to know what podcast, you listen to, if you listen to podcasts, and you're going to get something that can potentially spark enough curiosity for you to start to say, at the very least, I need to look at me.
No,
because this is the thing that's to me the biggest obstacle. No one's looking at themselves. We're the Spider-Man meme. It's everybody else.
Well, and I think that's a part of what social media has done, because we're more concerned about other people's lives than sometimes our own, because it's a way for us to detach from our reality. And so pivoting your TEDx talk, you talked about 3 steps.
I want to just give you a little bit of a hard time right now. If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
You happen to say TEDx. I just want to highlight that I did a TED talk, like as in an actual TED, as in TED organization.
On Amber.
Right. Not a TEDx.
Let me put some respect on that. TED talk. That's the Rolls Royce of dialogue, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. She did a TED talk talking about the 3 steps to better connect with your fellow human, which you just kind of broke down, in being able to do so. And I think that's the thing that we have to get better at. Like, even now, and I'll be brutally honest, my neighbors don't speak to me.
What? Like, not even like simple hello?
Well, my neighbor to one side of me does. Like, I'm probably one of the only, blacks in my neighborhood, and they probably look and see the car. They're probably like, he's home.
My neighbors think I'm selling dope. Got
probably it. So, but they don't speak to me.
So you don't bully them into it? Like I bully people to speak to me. I live in a building like that too.
I'm like 2 hands sometimes, but it's that part. Becoming better with dealing with us as humans. And so how do we get back to finding that connection? Because now everything is, I'll DM you.
Yeah.
Like there's
Yeah.
little human connection now. Even
Yeah.
prior to us setting this up, I said, no, I'm going
Right.
to call Amber and we're
You
going to
did.
talk.
You did. And my first reaction was like, oh my God, am I late? So yes.
No, I wanted you and I to have a connection before we came on because
Right.
I wanted this to be about you, not what I wanted to portray of you. Does that
Right,
make sense?
right. No, I totally get it. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think that you make it awkward. You know, we got to be okay with a little bit of awkward. I think when we were younger, we were used to that, right? We were used to the awkward hello, you know, because that's how it worked. We didn't have, you know, the tools that we use today. And so I make it awkward with my neighbors. When I get on the elevator, I say good morning. And if I don't get a response, I turn it up a little bit and look at them intentionally. Hey, good morning. Right. And they're like, oh, good morning. Yeah, we speak on these elevators, right? And so I think you have to be okay with a little bit of awkward because the thing you have to know is that people are not used to humaning anymore. And so they're not intending to be mean. They just aren't used to having to do it. And so it's like apologies. Like I this is a formula I give away all the time. There's a way to apologize. So an apology is two parts. I apologize for, moving forward, I will. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Moving forward, I'll make sure to say it correctly, right? That's a formula for apology. You can use it anywhere. If you're a company, if you're a person, if you're in a marriage, whatever, it works. And, you know, the thing I always tell people when I give people that formula is I remind them, you're going to have to say it a couple times because we're not used to getting like apologies. No, we're used to people being resistant or ignoring us. So if I say, hey, Will, I'm really sorry, you know, moving forward, I'll make sure to handle it this way. You're going to be like, yeah, because like, why would you you still mad? And guess what? I got to wait a few seconds and then I got to say it again. So like we have to do that with all variations of humaning together. And I want to emphasize that it's worth it because all of the people that's pulling the levers and pushing the buttons and turning the knobs that we mad about, that we want to protest against and we frustrated with, they talking to each other, whether they like each other or not.
They in the huddle, like we see what you keep saying. We see how you perform.
All of them was in the UK.
Yeah.
All of them. Yeah. So like at the end of the day, if we're unwilling to just deal with the awkward, how are we going to unite and have an actual impact? We're not. It's going to be short-lived. It's going to be something that people will see, witness, and go, oh, well, you know, we'll get past that. Wow. And move on to the next thing.
So as we wrap up, Amber, and again, thank you for your time. I just have to say that I apologize for calling it a TEDx. Okay.
Moving forward, I will say TED Talk. Okay. Thank you for that. I greatly appreciate it.
Respect on your accomplishments, all right?
That was hilarious.
So, merch line. You about to drop some merch.
Yes, I actually...
T-shirts, hoodies. I think I see you rocking it now. Be a good human. I just love this whole like you spreading love by putting the food by putting the medicine in the food, and your personality is so infectious that you know people see that you're the human that you are. I am other people to be. And so talk a little bit about your merch line. Can they get it now? How can we
absolutely
all of that?
Absolutely. We have a link up. So if you go to ambercabral.com, at the bottom down there, there'll be a button that says probably Humaning Well merch. And you'll be able to go, and there's a hoodie, a t-shirt, and a dad hat. So you can pick. All of them say be a good human. All of them are. Yeah, all of them are high quality. Anybody who knows me knows if I wouldn't wear it, I'm not going to sell it to y'all. So we went through several tests before I was like, oh, now this is a hoodie I can work with. So you got a good heavy 13 gram. Right. And we also did embroidery because we wanted you to not wash it and worry about the letters coming off or any of that stuff too. So if you hop out there, you can get that. I will be honest with you. This is the first time I've done that. This is a pre-order. because I wanted to basically make sure that I knew what I was ordering and what size. I did not have the data to be able to guess that. And so we're doing a pre-order. We're going to have the link open for a couple weeks so people can go ahead and get their pre-orders in, and then we'll place the mass order and get everything shipped out. I cannot promise you I will do it again. So if you care about this, be a good human. If you would like this across your chest, please act now, because I cannot guarantee that after October 20th, 2025, it will be available for you, because we're going to see how this goes. Because my job and my love in my life is not merch, but people stop me in the airport for this. Yeah. And so I'm okay.
No, and I could see why. So I need y'all to go break her servers and pre-order everything. I'm going to place an order and jam it up to where she got to keep ordering and keep sending them out to y'all. So y'all go and do so.
I would appreciate it.
Make sure y'all pick up her books, Allies and Advocates, as well as Say More About That. And just all the goodness that you're doing. You're, out here spreading love, helping people become better humans. But more importantly, you work with individuals and you teach them and help them to be more effective communicators. You're helping people to learning how to navigate into corporate spaces, or even for y'all entrepreneurs. Look, I see how some of these entrepreneurs crash out when one person say one little bitty thing wrong. Look, y'all
no resilience.
Reach out to Amber to learn how to effectively communicate to your audiences. Like, how can they reach out to you, Amber?
So you can always go to ambercabral.com. That's probably the best place to get a little bit of everything. And I do a little bit of all of it. I try to make sure that regardless of what your price situation is, there's something for you. So if you're at the place where budget really matters, you don't have the ability to really lean in, there's always the podcast.
Not to cut you off, before you say that, okay, ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't mean she's doing it for free. Okay.
No, it does not.
Because people might think that. They be like, hey, sis, can you,
No, I'm gonna tell you what's free. Okay. I'm gonna tell you what's free and cheap. Free and cheap are the podcasts, the TED Talk. Okay. The podcast is free. The TED Talk is free. The books are cheap. Okay. So free and cheap. All right, those are your options.
We say if you are not cheap, we say economical.
Yeah, economical, right? It is budget conscious. Yeah, all right, so you have that. If you are at a place where you're ready to make a little bit of self-investment, I do coach leaders, and there's a few tier options for that. If you're interested in some one-on-one coaching, and then if you happen to be an organization or run an organization or work for an organization that needs support with how to better communicate and connect across differences at your workplace, I work with big brands and small brands alike. You can go ahead and check out that over on my website as well.
Okay, and drop that link again for us one more time.
AmberCabral.com. That's AmberCabral.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I told y'all we had a legend on here. I told y'all. Look, I thought this was not only an effective dialogue, but it was much needed, because I get tired of hearing about 50-50. Who paying bills? What is cheesecake a good restaurant? I get tired.
So just as a point of note, since you threw that out there, I do have a small opinion I'd like to just share.
Okay. Amber's opinion.
Go on dates that you want to go on. If you don't want coffee, don't go on a coffee date. If you don't want cheesecake, don't go on the cheesecake date. Go on dates that you want to go on. We don't have to debate about this. There are going to be people who will go. There are going to be people who won't. Go on the one you want to go on. None of it means anything. Pick what you want to do. If you pick what you want to do, you'll end up with the person you want to be with.
Amber, I think I came up with the 5th title for your book.
What's the 5th title?
Let me simplify your life.
Let me simplify your life. Seriously, y'all making the unnecessary stuff hard. Like, for real.
Look, you don't even got to give me credit. Just go, please, make that book, because people overcomplicate just
everything.
Drinking water. Like
everything. Oh, you can't drink Essentia. It's not real water. Listen. If it hydrates me, I'm good.
Yeah, it's like
I'm good.
We overcomplicate everything, Amber, and it's refreshing that you're blessing the world with your infectiousness and just your views, and we're gonna continue to support you. You have my full support, my community support, and we're gonna make sure that people continue to hear your message. And so, any last words that you want to leave the people?
Oh, last words. There's a quote I always post on my Instagram story, and it, is in the cover of, if not both, at least one of my books. And it's, you can have whatever you want. The labor is to figure out what you want. That's the hard part. If you can figure that part out, the rest, you'll be all right. So that's it.
And what's the Instagram? How can they follow you on social?
Oh, I'm Bam Cabral on all the socials. BAMCABRAL. That's my nickname, Bam. You can call me Bam. It's okay. I'm all right with it. Until you make me mad, then I'm going to put you back in the Amber category.
So y'all go and run up her numbers on social. Amber, this has been an incredible dialogue.
Likewise.
Thank you for coming on. We got to do a part 2. We got to
for sure.
We got to
here for
back.
it.
We got to bring you back, do a part 2. We might even do a whole series, Amber's opinions, and just spitball some questions and help people simplify their life so that they don't want to go to Cheesecake Factory. They ain't got to go to Cheese.
Don't go.
So with that being said, y'all already know this is Will Roundtree on the Full-Time CEO podcast, where we interview dope individuals, businessmen, businesswomen, and just influential people for the community and the culture. And y'all already know the drill. Make sure you like, comment, follow, share, and all that good stuff. But more importantly, I'll see y'all at the top. Let's go.
You can't save your way out of poverty.
If the bank is going to take your money invested in real estate, how come we not doing that?
We got to focus on ownership. We have to own shit.
I love investing in real estate. It's the one tangible asset class that has stood the test of time.